Scarlett Johansson, long admired for her poise and polished presence, stunned both the live studio audience and millions of viewers at home when she erupted on The View after a fiery back and forth with co-host Joy Behar spiraled out of control, transforming what was supposed to be a routine promotional appearance into a live television spectacle that immediately lit up headlines, social media feeds, and cultural debates around the world. The segment had begun innocently enough, with Johansson sitting alongside the panel to discuss her latest film, her evolving career, and her philanthropic projects, but the tone shifted abruptly when Behar steered the conversation toward Johansson's personal choices, including her high-profile relationships, her political views, and her past comments that critics had often taken out of context. At first, Johansson tried to maintain her composure, answering questions with measured politeness and occasionally deflecting with her trademark wit, but Behar pressed harder, interrupting her responses, framing her answers with pointed commentary, and even rolling clips of past interviews to highlight contradictions. The tension in the studio grew palpable as Johansson's eyes narrowed and her voice sharpened, her irritation increasingly difficult to mask. Audience members shifted in their seats, sensing the crackling energy between the actress and the outspoken host, and the other panelists exchanged wary glances, attempting to pivot the discussion back to lighter territory. But Behar wasn't letting up. She raised her voice, cutting into Johansson's responses, her tone teetering between interrogation and provocation, until finally Johansson slammed her hands against the table, leaned forward, and declared in a voice both fierce and quivering with anger that she had come on the show to discuss her work, not to be demeaned or cornered into defending her private life. The audience gasped in unison, their surprise echoing through the set, as Johansson's words cut through the air with a raw intensity rarely seen from the normally controlled star. Cameras captured every second, her flushed face, her tightened jaw, her unwavering glare, and within moments, the eruption had become immortalized, destined to be replayed across networks, dissected online, and remembered as one of the most explosive live television moments of her career. What followed was chaos on all sides, the producers panicking in the control room, unsure whether to cut to commercial, the co-hosts fumbling to calm the situation, and Behar herself, momentarily stunned into silence, staring back at Johansson with a mixture of shock and indignation. In that instant, Johansson had shattered the polished facade of celebrity interviews, revealing not only her own breaking point but also the combustible nature of unscripted television, where one unrelenting question too many could ignite a firestorm that no one, not even a Hollywood A-lister, could contain. As the cameras abruptly cut to commercial, the studio audience buzzed with nervous chatter, their whispers filling the air as producers rushed onto the stage to mediate the situation. But when the show returned live, the tension had only intensified, creating an atmosphere so charged that viewers at home could almost feel it radiating through their screens. Scarlett Johansson sat rigidly in her chair, her arms crossed tightly against her chest, her jaw still clenched, while Joy Behar leaned back with an almost defiant smirk, clearly unwilling to let the moment pass without further commentary. Hoda, Sunny, and the other co-hosts scrambled to reframe the conversation, attempting to return to the film Johansson was promoting, but Behar, sensing both the audience's anticipation and the viral potential of the moment, pushed again, slyly remarking that celebrities couldn't expect privacy when they willingly lived in the public eye. That comment was the spark that reignited the flame. Johansson, her voice low but firm, shot back that being in the public eye did not give others, including Behar, the right to cross boundaries or weaponize personal struggles for entertainment. The crowd erupted with applause, some shouting support for Scarlett, while others laughed uncomfortably at Behar's stunned expression. Live television thrives on unpredictability, and this clash had turned into must-see TV, an unscripted showdown between Hollywood's cool-headed superstar and one of daytime's most outspoken personalities. What made the exchange even more electric was Johansson's refusal to back down. Instead of retreating into polished PR-safe answers, she leaned forward, her words deliberate and biting, as she laid bare the exhaustion celebrities feel from being endlessly scrutinized, prodded, and reduced to sound bites. Behar tried to respond, but her usual sharp wit faltered, her interjections drowned out by the thunderous reaction of the studio audience, who were now clearly siding with Johansson. For the first time in years, Behar found herself on the defensive on her own turf, and the energy in the studio shifted. This wasn't just a talk show spat anymore. It was a cultural flashpoint, one that would be clipped, shared, and dissected endlessly in the hours and days to come. Scarlett, breathing heavily but with a newfound steadiness, leaned toward the camera and audience, no longer speaking as just a guest promoting her latest film but as a woman determined to draw a line in the sand, and what she revealed left both the studio and millions of viewers at home frozen in stunned silence. She spoke about the countless years of being typecast, objectified, and torn apart by gossip panels, her life dissected by strangers who had never met her, her every friendship turned into a rumor, her every expression twisted into a headline, and she pointed directly at Joy Behar as the embodiment of that culture, accusing her in shows like The View of profiting from tearing others down. The studio erupted, half of the audience clapped and cheered while the other half gasped, as Joy tried to interrupt, insisting she was just doing her job. Scarlett didn't back down. Instead, she recounted personal incidents the public never knew, stories of tabloid harassment so severe that it endangered her child, moments of isolation when she questioned if her career was even worth the toll it took on her private life. The camera cut briefly to Joy, who shifted uncomfortably in her chair, realizing she was no longer in control of the exchange. This wasn't a friendly sparring of opinions anymore, this was a public reckoning. Scarlett's voice grew sharper as she declared that society needed to stop normalizing the exploitation of human pain for laughs or clicks, her words cutting deeper because they weren't rehearsed, they were raw, real, and unsparing. Even the other hosts, usually quick to jump in with their perspectives, sat frozen, their eyes darting between Behar and Johansson, clearly unsure how to navigate the moment. In those few minutes, Scarlett Johansson flipped the power dynamic of daytime television. The guest had seized control, the host was cornered, and the viewers were witnessing something more than celebrity drama. They were watching a cultural shift, live and unfiltered, where one of Hollywood's most private stars had chosen the most public stage possible to bear her truth and call out the very machinery that tried to silence her. Within minutes of Scarlett's explosive exchange on The View, clips of the confrontation flooded social media, spreading like wildfire across Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, racking up millions of views before the live show had even finished airing. Hashtags like #Scarlett vs Joy and #Reckoning on The View shot to the top of trending charts, and what began as a tense in-studio clash transformed into a global cultural conversation. Fans rallied behind Scarlett, praising her for her bravery and authenticity, with countless users sharing their own stories of being belittled, mocked, or misunderstood by authority figures or the media, saying Johansson had spoken for all of us. On the other side, Joy Behar's supporters scrambled to defend her, framing the outburst as a guest being too sensitive, or unable to handle tough questions, but their voices were quickly drowned out by the overwhelming surge of empathy Scarlett generated. Mainstream outlets picked it up within the hour. Variety called it the most shocking live TV moment of the decade, while the New York Times framed it as a raw confrontation between Hollywood celebrity and the media machine that consumes them. What stunned everyone most was how unfiltered Scarlett had been. No polished PR speech, no canned talking points, just unvarnished pain and fury broadcast to millions. Late-night hosts began preparing monologues, journalists started drafting think pieces, and even other celebrities weighed in, with A-list actors and musicians posting supportive messages, many admitting they too had felt the sting of the very culture Scarlett had condemned. Meanwhile, behind the scenes at ABC, executives scrambled in damage control mode, worried about both the potential fallout from Joy's reputation and the sudden, undeniable momentum Scarlett had unleashed. In that single outburst, the balance of power shifted, not just between Scarlett and Joy, but between stars and the shows that had long thrived on controlling their narratives. As Scarlett sat in her dressing room after storming off the stage, her phone buzzed non-stop, calls from her publicist, texts from close friends, and notifications from every platform imaginable. At first, she ignored them, still trembling from the confrontation, replaying Joy Behar's words in her head and wondering if she'd gone too far. But when she finally unlocked her phone, she was stunned by what she saw. Millions of people were rallying behind her, strangers pouring out their support, some even calling her moment historic. Clips of her fiery retort had been remixed into motivational edits, shared with captions like, "This is what strength looks like." Big-name celebrities were tagging her in posts, praising her courage, and even politicians were quoting her words in broader debates about media accountability and respect. For the first time in her career, Scarlett felt that she wasn't just being seen as a movie star, but as a real woman who had spoken truth to power, and that realization both exhilarated and terrified her. While her team worried about fallout and ABC scrambled to do damage control, Scarlett recognized that the moment wasn't slipping out of her hands. It was growing into a movement she could either step back from or fully embrace. The fallout from the clash didn't just stop at social media buzz, it began shaking the very foundation of The View itself. By the following morning, every major news outlet had the showdown plastered across their headlines, replaying the fiery exchange on a loop, dissecting every word, every expression, every pause. Executives at ABC reportedly held an emergency meeting, concerned that Joy Behar's sharp and dismissive comments had crossed the line, while others questioned whether Scarlett Johansson's raw and unfiltered reaction signaled the beginning of a new era where celebrities no longer played safe on daytime talk shows. Fans demanded accountability, with petitions calling for Joy to issue a public apology or even step down from the panel, while others praised Scarlett for refusing to be bulldozed by a veteran host. The audience response was so strong that even rival networks chimed in, some siding with Scarlett and inviting her to speak on their platforms, while others defended Joy, claiming Scarlett had overreacted. Hollywood insiders whispered that Scarlett's stance could reshape how actors approached press appearances, less controlled, more authentic, and unapologetically bold. Meanwhile, Scarlett herself sat quietly at home, sipping coffee, watching the storm unfold on television like everyone else, realizing